We've got a 68 custom deluxe reverb here, and the owner says buzzes make not buzz. So let's do that. Creamback 65. I love that speaker. Anyway, we'll get to that later. Let's get to what's wrong with this thing first. Okay, let's look inside this 68 custom deluxe reverb. Now, the owner said it's buzzing. It could be filter caps. I don't think so, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But let's pull the filter caps cover of the doghouse and look at them. So they have the blue ICs and then the black and gray on the 47. Notice this board is the exact same that they use on the 65 reissue. Nothing is visibly leaking. That does not mean that it's automatically good, but I don't think this is the cause of the buzzing. Taking a look inside, you might recognize that this is the exact same board with 95% of the population on the board being exactly the same as the 65 reissue. The same issue with the quick connects on the heaters. The same issue with the screen grid resistors mounted on the board rather than on the socket. Where this amp differs from the 65 is a couple places. They've got a little less reverb compared to the 65. They've got quite a bit less negative feedback, which is one reason this thing will buzz. It's very typical for these to buzz. You can hear them from the other room buzzing, even with the volumes off. I'll test that for you in just a moment. And this wire here, in the absence of this cap here, which is also why you have this wire here. Let me take this off autofocus so I can point at things without everything else going crazy. Where's my pointer? All right, this wire here is because there's no mix resistor stage in this. Both channels are already mixed. They're being mixed here through these plate resistors. This is a way for them to put reverb and tremolo on both channels. There are a couple different ways to do this. Some are quite good, some are quite noisy. Can you guess which one Fender did in this? That's right, they went for the noisy one. So I will talk to the owner and see if he wants that changed to the 65 without the noise, or whether he'd like me to change the way the mixing is done so he has reverb and trim on both channels without the noise. That piece of cardboard I took out is an EU regulation, so no one can stick a screwdriver in these jacks and possibly touch anything that's live voltage in here. They're annoying to work around, and I'm not particularly concerned about people sticking screwdrivers in the backs of amps because hopefully they're too stupid to do that. Before I power it all on, I want to make sure that all the hardware is tight. It is often loose in these. Let me put the phone down and do that. I'll point out anything that I found that was loose, but I can't do that one-handed. Okay, a quick listing of everything that was loose in the amp. The input jacks on both channels, the speaker jacks, the foot switch jack, the pot for the bias pot, the nut for the bias pot, the power transformer mounting bolts, the screws that hold the choke in place, the screws that hold the output transformer in place, and the screw that holds the reverb transformer in place, and the screw that holds this little reverb plug assembly in place. I have not checked the pot nuts. I assume they're probably not as tight as they should be, but I'm probably going to end up pulling this board. One other change on this compared to the 65 is they have a cut trace here, and they've increased the amount of mids dramatically on the normal channel. I think they went with 22 on the caps there. I don't recall. It's been a while since I had one in, which is a Marshall value. Not my favorite sound, and it's just way too much mids. And for those asking, does my 68 have the bright cap? It's right there. That part's the same as the 65. So I've got it powered on. Let's take it out of standby and let's listen for some buzz. Actually, let me go close the door in the other room so we don't hear the neighbor's air conditioner coming through the window, and then maybe we'll hear the buzz better. Sorry, it's that time of year where we put off turning on the AC as long as possible. Our neighbors next door already succumbed And so our windows are open, and we get to hear their air conditioner taunting us. Now you hear all that? I have both channel volumes at 0. I've got the reverb pot at 0. This amp should be dead silent, but it's very hissy and staticky. Let me pause this and I'll move it up to the speaker. That sounds like more than the typical hiss in one of these. That sounds like a cap charging and discharging. I promise I have my cell phone on airplane mode. It sounds just like cell phone interference. All right, we're going to pull the tubes one at a time, starting from the input, see if and when that noise goes away. So here's the one for the normal channel. Noise is still there. Oh, before anyone asks, pulling these preamp tubes when the amp is on won't hurt anything. That pop's not going to hurt this speaker. It's a little bit startling at times, but nothing major is wrong. And I want to know when that noise goes away. Okay. Let's see if it's just a bad preamp tube. Could also be a dirty preamp tube socket, but this thing is so new otherwise. Now we have the normal level of hiss that I associate with this amp. I'm going to put this suspect groove tubes back in V1, the normal channel. See if the problem comes back. There's that sound. Interesting that it does sound like caps discharging. I know I've got this somewhat precariously balanced. It's not going to fall to its death, I promise. Let's stick in this Mullard as a test. The normal level of noise is there, and hiss for a 68. A 65 would be about dead silent. I hear a slight ticky in the back. Maybe there's more than one bad preamp tube. I still hear it, so I'm gonna pull the other tubes until I don't hear that noise at all. Now this is the reverb driver tube, and you would think that it would not be affecting the audio since there is no reverb tank connected at the moment. But it can do very strange things to the B+ supply through this transformer. So I pull this. See, these masks are great. That would burn the hell out of my fingers. I still hear a little tick. Okay, now all the sound has disappeared from the amp when I pulled V4, which is the reverb mixer and the third gain stage in the vibrato channel. So I'm going to put this tongue saw 12X7 here in V4 and see if that tick comes back. normal amount of noise for one of these. This is the tube that will not be doing this. V5 is just used for the tremolo, the low frequency oscillator and the driver. Let's see if either of these AT7s is quieter than the other. It's like a shell game. Where did I put the thing? All right, here's the other AT7 that was in the reverb driver. I'm just putting these back, trying to find the quietest combination of tubes. This JJ 6v6 is slightly microphonic. Okay, I thought I heard a little noise when I put this in, but no. All right. That mullered in V2. Just the first two stages in the vibrato channel. Just the white noise that I would associate with this amp. Now the two tubes I have here, which I did pull from this amp, are two Groove Tube ECC 83s. And they're the ones that were in V2 and V4. I want to see if either or both of these have that ticka-ticka coming back. This one is cooler, so I think it's the second one I removed. Let's see what happens when I put this one back in V1. Like I said, it's like a shell game. I don't remember where the bad one was, the known bad one. Notice I'm doing this without looking inside the pin sockets. I have changed an awful lot of tubes. After a while you get pretty good at it. If you're doing it yourself, unless this is your 1000th 12x7 to put into a Fender, take the time to really look at the socket, make sure all the pins are where they need to be. There's a little ticka-ticka with that tube. I think that they are both ticka-tickas. But a better tube is not expensive. Big ticka-tickas with that one. So this one's got a little ticka-ticka, and this one's got a big ticka-ticka. So both those tubes are shit. Now I've got to tell YouTube a different thing when I say this thing is safe for ads, because I messed up and said shit. Oh shit. Anyway, grow up, people. We're musicians. Huh. A little bit of noise with that tube, which I thought was a good tube. That's a Tube Store Preferred Series 7025. Let's see. Here's a JJ I've got laying around. If all the tubes do it to different degrees in this socket, then it's a problem in this channel. I guess that tube store has also got a case of the ticka-tickas. This one seems to be fine though. So let me move the camera and plug in, and let's hear this bad boy. All right, let's start with the normal channel now that it is no longer ticka-ticka-ing. Not a bad sound, I just think it's kind of congested in the lower mids due to the resistor they use there and the tone caps. Let's see how the vibrato channel is doing. Now that channel is almost the same as the one in the 65, only it doesn't have as much negative feedback in the output, and it has a little less reverb depth, and there's that white noise over everything due to the combination of less negative feedback and the way they did the shared reverb and tremolo. So now that the ticka-tickas are gone, let me turn the volumes down on the channels and move the phone over to the speaker cab. You can hear the noise level of the 65 Custom Deluxe Reverb with all the channel volumes off. That's just way higher than it ought to be. Well, now I will call the owner and let him know that he needs 2 new AX7s, that everything else is working exactly as designed. But if he would like it to sound great, there are some other things I can do. And even if he doesn't have me change the noisy stuff in the 68, I'm going to strongly urge him to let me move these 2 heater wires, because that is a place where these things like to catch on fire. And that sounds worse than any bad buzz.